Mar College District to order at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, July 9th. And I'll turn on my microphone. I'll do that again. Calling the meeting, the regular meeting of the Board of Regents of Del Mar College District is convening at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, July 9th. We have a quorum and can conduct business. Please join me in a moment of silence as we start our meeting. Thank you. Mr. Bennett, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you would, please join the board in reading our Del Mar College mission statement. Del Mar College provides access to quality education, workforce preparation, and lifelong learning for student and community success. Del Mar College is streaming live audio and video from the official Board of Regents meeting on the college's website in real time, with the exception of portions of the meeting considered as closed session by statute. I'm going to start our meeting with our recognitions, and Dr. Escamilla is going to, I think, introduce our first one.
So yes, thank you, Regent Scott. Our first recognition today is a recognition of the President of the Texas Association of Community College Foundations is Mary McQueen. This is a great recognition. Mary, if you can kind of come on up. I'd like to talk about Mary's role in an organization that has, I think, evolved at the state level and has significantly been influenced by her participation, because foundations typically, historically at community colleges, have just begun to evolve in the last 10, 20 years. Some have been around much longer, but by and large, that's not been the case. And in Texas, the organization of community college foundations has really taken off and gained momentum. And I dare say it's because of Mary's participation. Mary doesn't do anything halfway. She gets in there and she's like with all due respect, she's like a little tornado, in a good way, a good tornado, and has really advanced that organization. And for her to be stepping up now as chair or president of the association for this next couple of years is a great recognition. Taking Del Mar College out there, I mean, what the foundation has done here locally has just been a sea change in the way of development and philanthropy. But I'd like to recognize Mary McQueen as the 2019 to 2021 President of Texas Association of Community College Foundations. We have a winner here.
Dr. Adami has a gift for you from the college in recognition. And next I'm going to ask Ms. Lenora Keys to come up and introduce our Small Business Development Center staff, SBDC.
Thank you very much. And I'd like for Ann Farova, please, to join me. And Dan Corus. Yes, and bring it on, please. Isn't this impressive? This is so impressive. I think many of you know that Del Mar College has been the sponsor for the Small Business Development Center for at least about 25 years now. And Ann and I have had the pleasure to work together for on and off that time period. And Dan Corus is the Dean over Workforce Development and Corporate Services, who is over the Small Business Development Center. But under Ann's leadership, they have received the Eagle Award. And I just think this is so impressive. And would your staff please stand? I think this is representative. Our Small Business Development Center staff, keep standing. No, keep standing. I just think it's so impressive that this staff serves our small business community in such a meaningful way. And nothing is more important than small business development in our community and our entire region. And this staff just does an amazing job, and they carry out so many initiatives. They do business plans, consulting, advising for small business just to nurture that. We have a contractors resource center. We have all types of resource centers that people can come in and get all types of help to start your business. They are sponsored by San Antonio through the University of Texas, San Antonio, through the Small Business Administration. The funding comes through the state of Texas. And now supplemented by the Type A board. Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Board has actually awarded some funds this year. But this staff comes together and has worked in many, many ways. And I want to share with you what this Eagle Award is really representing. The Eagle Award is specific to the Small Business Administration Harlingen District, and it is devised to recognize area partners who most strongly support the nominees to the National Small Business Week. Our local nominations go on to compete at the district, regional, and national level. And these are businesses that are nominated by our staff. And so the business themselves have to provide and actually win. And so this is real, and it takes a lot of work on the part of staff to put these nominations together. We had 3 nominations this year, 2 of which won the district level and competed in the regional level. The SBDC advisor, Jamie Jones, Jamie? Yeah, and nominated Mr. Joe Perez, with the Smoothie King, who went on to win Small Business Person of the Year, and SBDC advisor Celia Garza. Celia, there we go. She nominated Max Salinas with Max Underground Construction LLC, who went on to win Minority Small Business of the Year. And these nominations are very time-consuming to put together. It takes a lot of work up front to put these together. And Monica Stuber and Ann both support this, and I think the entire staff support all the nominations. And so I just want to say congratulations. And isn't this the most impressive award? I think it's the most impressive statue we've had, and their goal is to keep it and keep it here in Corpus Christi for the next years to come. So congratulations to you all. Thank you very much. And it's heavy.
Lenore, we have gifts for all of them. Would you help Jay distribute those? Do you mind? And if we don't have enough, we'll get more. Thank you all very much, and it is a partnership that Del Mar College is proud to be partnering with the SBDC. You all do great work, and so thank you very, very much. We're going to move on in our agenda to the College President's Report. Dr. Escamilla.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So just very quickly, a couple of dates to mention. I took part in the Texas Association of Community Colleges Executive Committee meeting. We're doing a lot of preparations for next week's annual President's meeting to be held in Marble Falls. We typically do that during legislative session. And as you recall, last year this time, we held that meeting for the first time in Corpus Christi, which was a great event. So preparations through the executive committee and planning for the future meeting, next week's meeting, is what that was all about, and preparations for logistics and all of those sorts of things. And then other than that, I attended with several of you all, Regents, many of you all actually, for the Corpus Christi, Community College Association of Texas Trustees annual conference that was held in Austin. Don't ask me about my truck getting broken into, that's another story. But anyway, it was a great conference that was well attended, and I think it's an important conference as Del Mar College represents a significant, has a profound impact on this particular organization. You all's presence there collectively was seen by others. The other college trustees and presidents are sitting there saying, wow, Del Mar College always has a strong presence and contributes and participates, and that's no small matter, and that's why I wanted to make it part of my president's report. Thank you all for attending and your attention there, because we know you could be at other places, and with your time and your commitment to that organization is critical for the future of community colleges. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Escamilla. Which leads us to Regent reports from the Community College Association of Texas Trustees Annual Conference. We had several of our regents that attended, and so I want to give everyone an opportunity to share a headline or two of things that you learned, and then if you have documents that you'd like to share, please get those to Natalie, and she'll make sure they get distributed to the board. Mrs. Estrada, would you like to start?
Sure. Dr. Scamilla was right. I felt very important at that meeting. We had Carol up there, and we heard lots of good comments about Del Mar College, so that really made me feel good. But just to share a few comments, because I know there's 8 of us that are going to be speaking, I think the whole conference was very informative. It was really good. Of course, the director, Dr. Rose Martinez, is a product of Corpus Christi, graduate of Moody High School. She was in charge, did a great job putting it together. And some of the information that I brought back, one of the sessions that I really enjoyed was the one made by the co-founder of the Texas Tribune. He's also the editor, but I think I'm going to yield to Ms. Libby here so she can speak about that one, because was her baby at one time. Not the editor, but the newspaper, the reporting. Anyway, some of the great information that I brought back was that community colleges have received a little over $67 million in funding, advising for students who have successfully completed 15 hours of dual credit will be mandated, and dual credit students will be required to have a degree plan after completion of 15 hours. Career and technology education, college affordability, and workforce readiness are some of the national trends that were addressed. And then a very informative handout was given by WGU, and it's a university, and Dr. Scamilla, help me out, WGU, what does that stand for?
Western Governors University.
Okay. They're partnering with states to address workforce needs, and I attended the sessions where the presenters spoke on the different partnerships that they have with industry. And then another good presentation, especially for new board members, was made on the importance of conducting a yearly self-evaluation. And we also completed a mini self-evaluation on ourselves, and I felt really, really good because my score was really, really high, and I'm sure the other members that completed the mini evaluation felt the same way. And then I was impressed with some information that was presented from some college. I'm sure they were from Dallas, but it was on the Dallas Promise. And what this is, it is a promise to cover the cost of tuition and to pair students with success coaches for 3 years to help them with their college experience. And this program is available to seniors in participating high schools, and it is an effort between the school district, the colleges, the universities, and the workforce to increase college completion. In other words, it's really a scholarship program provided to seniors that reside in the Dallas County Community College District. And if anybody's interested, I do have some notes on the Dallas Promise. And this concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Ms. Abert.
I'll jump in. As the newest regent, I was really honored to be able to attend. It helped me quite a bit in truly understanding my role as a regent and what that means to the college and my responsibilities. I was encouraged that so many of the best practices that were discussed and recommended are things that I have heard us, if we're not already doing, certainly talking about and planning for in the very near future. So that was encouraging. And I will talk about Ross Ramsey, who, as was stated, the executive editor of the Texas Tribune, and in my opinion, probably the leading publication, website, news media enterprise in terms of state matters and legislative matters, and he was extremely entertaining. I found his comments to be wonderfully nonpartisan, but also enough insider information that we certainly got some insight into what was going on behind the scenes that we may not have seen just by seeing the headlines of some of the stories. So I thought including him on the agenda was really good to help us better understand what's going on truly in Austin behind the scenes, how things are working, some of the relationships that exist there, and how we, as the community college community, had a good session. It could have been a whole lot worse, and we came out pretty unscathed. So I'm really grateful that I was allowed to attend.
Thank you. Who else? Mr. Salinas.
I'm not going to repeat everything they said because it's the same thing, you know. It was an awesome conference. But there was one thing that kind of moved me a little bit, and maybe a little bit more than what I think. They had a little video on a kid, a young man, that struggling and struggling, and then he eventually ended up doing real well. And that's one of the things that I just want to, for anybody out there that's going to be watching and listening to us, listen, anybody can do it. Sí se puede. You can do it. All you have to do is make that commitment and come, and Del Mar will provide all that opportunity for anybody that says that they can't. Yes, we can. All you got to do is meet the right people, come over, they'll help you. We'll help you here. But sí se puede. Get all those. Hey, I think this young man had a little kid, a little daughter, a son, and I mean, he made it, but he struggled, but he made it. And I thought that was awesome. And I think that's what we're all about, trying to get our kids to succeed and eventually do something for themselves. I really was moved by that. I wanted to get the film because I said that film needs to be here in our high schools, because we do have a lot of kids that struggle, and eventually, yeah, they're going to make it. But you got to go out and, because they're not going to give it to you. You got to go out and get after it. And so, anyway, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole conference. It was very good. And so I really appreciate that I had the opportunity to be there.
And I noticed that some of the people were crying. Mr. Salinas, did you cry? Right here.
Brought tears to your eyes, it did. Who else? Dr. Donnie?
Well, like all conferences, it was very informative, because when we talk about legislative updates, this was a good reason to be there. Because when we start talking about school finances and transfers, dual credit, things that are important, public safety, this was a good opportunity to sit down and see everything in one session. I mean, it was informative, and it gave us a good insight of how everything is put together. Of course, all these conferences are very important, and again, yeah, it was an honor to be there. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have my report written out, but everybody's already talked about everything. The main thing, a lot of the sessions dealt with the session, the 86th Texas Legislative Session, and several people told us what happened and what occurred. But the important thing, I think, is that we sat down with other groups before, set up our priorities, and the priorities seemed to be, were met. We were successful in achieving a lot of the legislative priorities that we had. Especially with the money. One thing that I can add about Ross Ramsey that Libby left out, he's always very nonpartisan, but he did give the Democrats a little bit of optimism. He talked a little bit about the upcoming legislative session in 2021 and stated the fact that because the Democrats did so well in the last election, and if districting is done right in 2021, that's going to be a big issue then. And the Democrats will be poised to take control of the Texas House. So that's optimistic for the Democrats. The CCAD business meeting occurred. We elected board members. And every time we have these elections, I'm surprised, because at the beginning of CCAD, you kind of have to twist arms to get somebody to serve on that board. And now it's very competitive. Everybody's interested in serving because it's a great organization. One thing that I can mention is that our upcoming chair is going to be Carol Scott for the organization. And the privilege of the chair is that they get to conduct the next meeting in their home city. So that means that our session next year.
We're trying.
Our session next year should be here in Corpus Christi, from what I understand. I thought it was already settled, but I guess not.
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, but anyway, but like I said, it was a good session. We had a great opportunity to visit with Regents, friends that we've met over the years, and meet new trustees in Regents that we didn't know. We had great speakers and panelists, got some great information on what occurred during the legislative session, like I said. A lot of the sessions were very data-driven, and I think Mr. Bennett can probably talk more about that part of it. He was taking more notes than I was. But always appreciate the opportunity to attend these sessions.
Thank you, Mr. Rivas. Mr.
Now, I did attend one session that stressed the importance of getting these students out closer to the 60 hours. And it's a problem with every community college. And I thought it was a problem because it's taking their time, it's using their Pell Grant, and it is. But there's also another problem. When these students transfer and they accumulate more than 30 hours in excess of the degree plan, they start paying out-of-state tuition. So not only do they run out of money from Pell Grants, their last few hours are out-of-state tuition. And I wasn't aware of that. So it's a problem everywhere.
Thank you. Dr. Sherwood?
People have already mentioned a lot of the things that I noted, but the one I will mention, other than that, was the first speaker, who was from the Education Commission of the States, and I think really gave us a lot of good context nationally on what's going on in education. I found that to be really, really useful, as well as meeting regents from other institutions, and all of the information that was provided in the sessions were all very good. Appreciated the opportunity to go.
In addition to the Dallas Promise session, there was another one that was specific to a college. Amarillo College has been doing a poverty initiative, and that was the one where they showed the video at the end, Mr. Salinas. And it was a conscious effort of the college to address their students who live in poverty and the opportunities and the challenges the unique challenges that they face. Some of that was new to me. Some of that I recognized some of our own programs. They have what they call an advocacy and resource center that they weave services through that for students in poverty. It includes a food pantry. It includes a clothing closet. It includes additional help and some resources from a counseling and advising standpoint, but it also includes some of the foundation grants that we've been able to give where students run into short-term loans and utility assistance and some of those kinds of things. So it marries that kind of student intervention with actually use of data, some accelerated learning opportunities, poverty training for advisors and counselors who are going to work with students trying to come out of generational or even short-term poverty issues. So I thought their whole ability to wrap around services and programs that can support those students was something very interesting. Their success rate using first-generation coaches, what they call coaches for first-generation college students, let me put it that way, first-generation college students, they were able to, in 1 year, improve their fall-to-fall retention to 86%. So they went from under 50% retention fall-to-fall to over 86% retention fall-to-fall. So be able to show quick results just by providing those support services. And so I think those are programs out there like that we can learn from and have opportunities to bring some ideas back. So thank you all for spending your time to go. I know it's not always easy to give up a Friday and part of your Saturday to do that, but I appreciate the time and effort that everyone took to attend. So with that, we will move on in our agenda to our pending business. If you will look on your board packets, excuse me. In July, we'll hear from our financial and investment reports. In August, we're going to have that tax abatement review that will be done with Dr. Escamilla and probably Lenora Keys, who is our representative on the CCREDC board, and then a representative from the EDC will be here as well. We're going to get an interim status report on grant management, and then future board meetings, you'll see some updates and internal audit updates, et cetera. So if there's any questions or anything that we're missing, please let me know. If not, we will move on to the consent agenda. These are items that are routine or administrative nature, and the board has been previously provided information on these. So we have 2 items on our consent agenda: the approval of minutes for June 11th, both workshop and regular meeting, and then the acceptance of investments for June report. Is there a motion to approve those items?
I'll move to approve, Madam Chair.
Mr. Rivas makes that motion. Ms. Estrada makes a second. Any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Those items pass. Thank you very much. Now, in our regular agenda, we will hear from Mr. Garcia. Are you going to introduce our quarterly investment report? Yes. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, Madam Chair, and members of the board, Linda Patterson from Patterson & Associate is with us today. Linda will be presenting on the college's investments and performance and current economic conditions affecting those investments. How you doing, Linda?
Hi.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be back here. Not always a pleasure to bring you the sometimes daunting economic news that's going on right now. I'm sure anybody who is halfway following the financial turmoil and the markets knows that we are basically at a plateau. And it's not something unusual, it happens. I've been through many of these, and you just have to sit and think what the forces are that are putting us in this position. But we are definitely up and down, up and down. There are great forces that are pushing on the markets, that are pushing on investors, and they're very strong, but they vary in intensity, and they also vary in emphasis, because for a while you will get constant news about Brexit, and then you'll get constant news about GDP. And as those wax and wane, then the market gets, it just batters the investors. And we're at that position because we have tremendous crosswinds that are forcing the market to a more optimistic or more pessimistic look at the environment. And we have a relatively good and very optimistic look domestically. We're slowing down, granted, no question about that, but we're not stopped. We're kind of staggering along, and we have international situations which are causing other kinds of more pessimistic viewpoints for the market. And one of the greatest ones, of course, is the trade and the tariffs and the conflict between the United States and China. I think, you've all heard all the parts about that. I think it's one thing to remember here. Well, actually, two things. First is that China really needs a deal. There's been no question about this. They have gone through 17 major stimulus programs. They have an economy that is suffering. They have an economy that has slowed down their manufacturing, their trade, just when they've brought a huge number of their population into a manufacturing and out of a rural environment. So they really need the deal. The United States approaches this deal on an economic, on a manufacturing, on a trade kind of basis. And we are obviously a little more short-term than the Asian cultures. So we're in it for, let's make the deal, let's go forward. The Chinese, I think you have to remember, see this as saving face or not saving face. And they have long time perspectives. And so it's two different forces, not just economically at conflict here, but two different ideologies about how far I can push and how long I'm willing to stand so that I don't lose face in the situation. And I think that's a very important thing to look at. Now, another thing that's going on in the markets is that the markets themselves are pushing. Ever since December, when we thought we were going to get 3 hikes in 2019, now we're looking at, well, up until last week, everyone was saying 90% chance of a cut in July when the FOMC meets again the end of July, the 30th and the 31st. We had a payroll number last week that came in at 224,000, way above expectations. And that says jobs are out there. They're still out there. That says wages are going up a little bit. That keeps inflation up almost to the Fed's target. So the market backed off again, and we have the projections then changing a little bit. You also have what we lovingly call the bond vigilantes, and they have been pushing the rates down because they want a cut. And you'll see it here in the next couple of slides as to what has happened to the curve as a result, which then foretells a problem going past. But if you look on that first, the top chart there is the Fed's GDP projections. And you can see they're slowed down again. They're coming down off the peak that we had at the end of last quarter. But it's coming down, but then it's stabilizing. It's not really something that's going to crater and go into an immediate recession. It couples with the chart that is really hard to see on the bottom, and that's the dot plot. And the dot plot is the Federal Reserve governor's projections of where interest rates would be. And you can see that it's going up a little bit, it's coming down a little bit. So it's a mixed program in there right now. What it does tell us overall is that there's a shallow growth projection for the United States, but whether it is drastic or not depends on a whole lot of different concerns. Basically, domestically, it depends on payroll, it depends on inflation. And payroll, as I say, everyone was looking for a real slowdown. You can see that bottom graph where we had dropped precipitously, but this past week it bumped back up again. Whole different outlook on what the Fed will do. Basically, before that payroll number, there was a 90% projection for a cut in July. There is a 0 rate projection now. They shouldn't, in my opinion, humble opinion, they shouldn't cut, and I don't think they will now after that. It would be very hard pressed to do that. Of course, we have one other of those major concerns, and that is the conflict between the White House and the Fed. If you've been listening, a lot of commentators have been coming out, economic commentators coming out and saying that the Fed should be independent. I kind of wondered about that when I heard the comment yesterday, because the Fed governors are appointed by elected officials. The Fed chairman is appointed by an elected official. It has to be somewhat independent in that it's taking the monetary side as opposed to the fiscal side of the equation of the economy. So that's just another thing that's roiling the markets right now. And of course, if we look outside of the United States, where we have a slowing of housing, a slowing of manufacturing, slight slowing in wage growth, then you have some real serious problems. I mentioned in here a trifecta. One, of course, China. 2, Turkey. We don't often think about that, but that has been a major contributor to currency problems recently because of the changeover in the power structure in Turkey, and then Iran and the sanctions that we're fighting with there. And it's hard to forget about Brexit, who looks now like they'll just leave without a plan, which could be disastrous to the economy of Europe, Central Europe, and also to England itself. So those kinds of things are happening. And down a little bit lower, maybe under your periscope depth, is Italy. Italy has been a major problem for the EU, continues to be. The EU says you really can't, you have certain ratios that you have to meet on your debt, about 20%, well, Italy's at about 60%. So that could be a real stumbling block, and remember that Brexit comes out with a separate currency. Italy doesn't. Italy's the euro, where the pound is still being used in the UK. So pulling that away is a lot less disruptive on the currency side than Italy would be. This is what the result of all of this going on is. And this, I drew this chart just the other day, and then the payroll number came up. And that bottom red line, which is June, has bumped up a little bit, especially in the 2-year, 5-year, 10-year area, where now they're not so certain that we're going to have a rate cut. But the shape of the curve tells us, it's a really good predictor of what's going to happen. When this curve was drawn before the payroll number, it looked like there was about a 35% chance from the curve that we would have a recession in the next 12 months. That has, that percentage has dropped precipitously now because of the payroll number. But you can see how the market itself is pushing down the rates. They're anticipating a rate cut. And it's going to be up to the FOMC to see whether that really comes about. Another reason, not just domestically and not just the trade issue that's driving that, is still one that I've mentioned to you for many, many presentation quarters back, and that is comparable debt, sovereign debt. If you're an international investor and you don't think that a under 2% 10-year looks very good, which I can't imagine anybody would. You just have to look at the next best credit. The next best credit is the German 10-year Bund. It is now at a negative 0.6. And the Japanese 10-year is in a negative 0.4. Only the UK comes pretty close to us. So if you have international sovereign money, international money that you can invest, you're going to be in this market, and you're going to be chasing those treasuries and agencies. And that money chasing it puts the prices up, which means the rates go down. And so that's a lot of what's going on there. And I think we have to remember that so that we don't get too negative in our outlook for what's happening in the United States. What's happening at Del Mar, I am really pleased. I mean, to look at this, this report shows a really good movement and really great cooperation and coordination with your staff in creating the portfolio and moving it forward in those kinds of conditions. Because when we think the rates are going down, of course, then the best thing that you can do is extend the portfolio. You want to lock into whatever yields that you actually can lock into without sacrificing liquidity. So this is the makeup of the entire portfolio. And you can see, of course, the largest 3 points are the 2018 A and B series of the bonds, taking about 47% of the portfolio, and then local Maine. And local Maine has to stay a lot more liquid. And of course, with all your construction going on, we have to stay relatively liquid in all of the bond funds because we don't know as that construction goes when the money will be needed. I also pulled out for the first time here, just so that you have an idea, how much percentage-wise still remains in the 2016 and 2017 series. But when you look at it a little bit closer, these are the pooled funds. These are the, excluding the series 16, 17, and 18 A and B bond funds. And you can see us extending the portfolio here. It went from 62 days in February to 157 days. And that was a very intentional move to lock in what we possibly could before that curve dropped down. And you can see it below that too, that you can only do so much. It's dropping from a 257 to a 254, holding it close to that 250 amount. So it dropped a little bit more than the benchmark on the 6-month, which went from a 251 to a 246. But we were able, because we were staying also a little bit short, and that's where those higher rates are, to improve the earnings from February quarter to May quarter, from 522,000 to 669,000. So the pooled funds overall in this fiscal year are now standing at 1.55 million. These are the allocations for those various pooled funds, and you can see pretty much when you look at the table below it why those allocations are such that they are. The dark blue, of course, is the pooled funds. That's local government investment pools, so very, very liquid. And as I say, we have to keep that because of your ongoing expenditures, and especially as you get near the end of your year before the new registrations start. But treasuries are impossible now, and you don't see them on the portfolio at the end of May. They're just too expensive, as we saw on the yield curve. But the agencies are holding in, and one of the strongest parts, of course, is commercial paper. That is now pretty much going away. This is probably the last quarter that you'll see us using the commercial paper. You can see it dropping from a 277 to a 275. And the reason for that is because you only get commercial paper offering you good yields when the companies need the money. So if their manufacturing is slowing down, if their trade is slowing down, then they're going to lower their rates. And they've now pretty much come under the liquid rates. And the pools are holding at about 255, 250. So it's difficult to make the argument to go out. But if you think that the Fed is going to cut rates, then you have to do it. The overview on the tax bond funds, here again, you see the same situation. We've extended these from 62 days to 157 days. Able to do that because of the good projections on the construction and locking in the rates. Not too much of a change from 260, I can't even see that, 265 to 262, but staying right with the benchmark as it's pulling down. And here, because of size, the total earnings to date for the bond funds is just a little over the pooled funds, 1.8 million. And this is the breakdown, taking all three of those, actually four of those bond issues, excuse me, and where it's invested. We were lucky enough to grab some CDs before the banks pulled the rug out from all of the rates now, which are well, sometimes below 2%, but the bank rates that we have going forward in CDs primarily are at 274, so they'll serve the portfolio as well. CP, again, pulling us through this quarter, but probably going to disappear. And the agencies, since this was issued at the end of May and June, we've also invested a little bit more of the portfolios going out about from 6 months to 3 years, trying to get those rates in line. So that's a good look at what's going on. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Well, before we get there, I just want to say, Linda, thank you very much for the wonderful insight you given us today on the global perspective of the economy. Just keep in mind that the local economy here is slightly different. So when Linda's talking to us about the global perspective, that's because our investment portfolio has a broader scope in terms of managing our resources. But the local economy, I want to emphasize the fact that we do have a $50 billion infusion in capital dollars, which speaks a little bit different to how we manage those resources here. So thank you very much, and thank you to Kathy. I want to report that for the quarter end, investments relative to last year has nearly doubled. Last year, we reported $500,000 in investment revenues. We are now at $1 million. Why? Because of these strategies that Linda just talked about, keeping our eye on the liquidity levels, and also taking advantage by Linda, keeping an eye or a pulse on what's happening globally, as well as the political and global side of the investment side. So thank you, Linda. Any questions?
Yeah, there were some possible questions. Linda, before you take a seat.
I just wanted to ask you, we haven't heard any more about Bitcoin. Is that still a thing, or did it go away?
I have to really have to giggle there, because one very large client of mine who's very conservative, they won't even buy commercial paper, and I answered the phone a couple weeks ago, and he said, "What do you think about Bitcoin?" You can't do it. Okay, let's just stop the conversation there. It's still there. And now, of course, there's Bitcoin and several other cryptocurrencies, but none of them are gaining any real momentum, because there's nothing behind them. And people realize, I think, like a day trader would be in for a quick move in the market, but otherwise, you have to watch out in the long term. So I think investors stay basically away from it.
Mm-hmm. Just curious. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to accept the quarterly financial report, investment report?
Also move, Madam Chair.
Mr. Bennett moves, Mr. Rivas seconds. Any discussion, any questions, any public comment on that item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item is investment policy.
Yes, so we continue with action item, I believe, number 4, relating to the investment policy. The annual review is required in accordance with Texas Government State Statute Title 10, Chapter 2256.005E, also recognized as the Public Investment Act. Linda Patterson is here again to discuss the college's investment policy and her recommendation of any potential changes.
This year, I was recommending no changes to the policy. Of course, we did have, as you all mentioned, a legislative session, and the act has changed, has been amended every year except one since we wrote it in a long time ago. I'm not even going to mention the date, 87. There were a couple changes to the act, but none that I would recommend that the college take. One of them was that the only one that really would have affected you is the fact that they now allow commercial paper to go out to 365 days. That's really kind of a glitch in legislation because commercial paper only by name goes to 270 days. What somebody was pushing for was to take it to 365 primarily for the use of the pools, and that's really private placement from 270 to 365. It's a very dangerous area of the curve. It's not very credit worthy, and that's why I suggested to the college not to take it. Otherwise, most of the other changes had to do with the pools and nothing that would affect you. So your investment policy, I would recommend that you re-adopt it with no changes this year.
Is there a motion to that effect? Moved by Dr. Sherwood, second by Ms. Averett. Any questions on the motion?
Is there any, just a question, is there any, under the Investment Act, Public Investment Act, do we have to do any more training?
You mean the board?
The board?
No.
Okay.
But we have a session coming up next week that we're doing here at Del Mar for all of P&A's clients around this area. So if you'd like to sit in, you're more than welcome. It's really pretty interesting.
I'll bet it is.
Find a long time ago.
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next, stay there.
I'm glued to the spot.
Yes, yes. Next item, relating to the annual review of the listed of qualified broker-dealers engaged in investment transactions for the college. The annual review is in accordance with the Texas Government State Statutes Title 10, Chapter 2256.025, also recognized as the Public Investment Act, and in accordance with Board Policy B4.6.25. Linda Patterson is here today to discuss the college's list of brokers and any recommendations that she may have.
You can see the list that we have recommended to you. It looks like a long list. We don't always use all of them. We always, though, make sure that we have at least 3, probably closer to 5, competitive bids and offers when we go out for anything. But we like a longer list, and we've added a few because they address particular parts of the market. So, for instance, when commercial paper is very, very strong as a part of the portfolio, Merrill Lynch is right there, Morgan Stanley is right there, some of the bigger names. And where we get into, particularly now, I'm watching the muni market to see how that's going. So a Vinings and a Williams Capital are very strong there. Williams Capital, by the way, is a minority firm. There are very few. But we have a nice mix of primary dealers and secondary dealers, so that we also, I'm looking at a lot of different inventories as well as open street bids.
I did not go back and compare last year's list. Are there people that you pulled off or additions based on this year?
You know, we didn't change it.
It didn't change. All right, good.
I know we've changed other clients, so I have to really check.
We've been
but no.
successful, so this is good.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got people who, also a lot of people who recognize what Del Mar does and recognize that you really pay attention to your portfolio, and that's great.
Is there a motion from the board to adopt the authorized broker-dealer list as presented? Ms. Estrada makes the motion. Ms. Hutchison seconds. Any discussion? Further questions? Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you, Ms. Patterson.
Good to see you.
And Mr. Garcia is going to present the quarterly financial report.
Yes. Okay.
A lot of numbers today. This is,
Yes, I'm so
this is the-
sorry.
the
Yes.
Garcia show.
So let's begin with the revenue section of the financial statements. For the third quarter ending May 2019, reported total operating revenues is $75.6 million. It's trending above the planned budget with a budget rate of 96%. The $3.9 million change in total revenues over prior year's $70.1 million is driven by property taxes, $2.4 million, tuition and fees, $1.6 million, and the last item, the investment income, which I think I just spoke about, $540,000 above last year's experiences. Let's see. Moving on to expenses. Total operating expenses is $66.7 million. It's trending at the expected rate of 66%. In addition, the year-to-date expenses of $66.6 million is trending consistently with last year's $65.2 million, also at that 67% rate. Moving on to assets. The balance sheet, assets on the balance sheet. Okay. As of May 31st, 2019, the college cash and investment position is $64.8 million. That's the combining value of cash and investments, resulting in 1 month's improved liquidity relative to last year's cash and investment position during last year same period. Let's talk about specific accounts. I'm going to be talking about deferred outflows, this $5 million right here, and deferred inflow pension 18.2, and the 67.6 million. The reported changes in deferred outflows, net position liability, deferred inflow pension plan, and unrestricted fund balance are mainly attributed to the reporting changes, also referred to GASB 75, for post-employment healthcare, life, and dental benefits for retirees. The reported values are determined by an actuary hired by the Employee Retirement System, also known as ERS, and is subject to changes on their multiple variables used by their actuary. The college audited financial statements provides full financial disclosure of this obligation in footnote number 16. The note includes the shared funding for this cost between employees, college, and the state. As reported in the note, Del Mar's reported contribution year to date is $891 million since the inception. That's Del Mar's payment or contribution to the system. Please note that the Texas Insurance Code section 1551.055 of chapter 1551 describes the shared funding requirement for the benefit. Madam Chair, members of the board, and Mr. President, that concludes my presentation on the financials.
Any questions for Mr. Garcia on the financial report?
Does that include the check register?
Sure, if you have a question on the check register.
I do.
Okay.
Same question I had last month. GCA services.
Yes, so that was a negotiated contract whereby there was some payments that were made last month in order to catch up to the services that had been already delivered in accordance with the terms and conditions of the contract. And it is an outsourced functionality. Once again, the outsource relates to the employee individuals of the local community. I assume, pretty sure, that they all contribute to or pay into the M&O rate and the debt service tax rate. And so, yes, the company is a San Antonio-based organization, but like anything else, every organization, service organization is predominantly their expense is salaries and benefits. Again, I emphasize those individuals that are employed to do service work at Del Mar are local residents.
Custodial services?
Yes, sir.
What is your concern?
My concern is it used to be $82,000 a month. Last month it went up to, I believe, $91,000, and this month it's $89,000. So are we looking at a permanent increase?
You know, I have to revisit the contract. I'm not too sure what the negotiated price resulted relative to the prior contract. So, but yeah, I mean, we're going up 3% on our operating expenses, so I would assume that there would be some changes there as well.
We can have that to you specifically after this meeting.
And I think when we bring these buildings on, the square footage, we're being charged by the square footage, I believe, in the contract.
Correct, correct.
So I have anticipated increases, but not until we had the buildings up. So that's my confusion.
So there is some increase there. We needed to get with that contract and understand it specifically, and we'll get that to you
Okay,
specifically.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to adopt the financial report? Moved by Mr. Bennett.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rivas. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. I dropped my pencil. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, we will take general public comment for items not listed on the agenda. I don't see anyone listed for general public comment. At this time, the board then will move into closed session. One of our closed session items has been deleted from this meeting. We'll bring it back next month. So we'll be entering closed session under Texas Code 551.074A1, personnel matters regarding the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including the annual evaluation of the college president, with possible discussion and action in open item. And Texas Government Code 551.071, consultation with legal counsel regarding pending or contemplated litigation or legal claims, or a settlement offer with possible discussion and action in open session, and the seeking of legal advice from counsel with possible discussion and action in open session. And under Texas Government Code 551.087, economic development, regarding discussion, deliberation of information received from a business prospect with which the college is conducting economic development negotiations, and/or the deliberation of an offer, a financial or other incentive to a business prospect with possible discussion and action in open session. The time is 1:57. We'll take a short break while we clear the room. Back from closed session at 4:18 p.m. There is no action out of closed session. The board will now look at our upcoming calendar. We have what is missing on our July calendar is on July 30th at 11:30. There will be a final budget workshop. We will have our appraisal district numbers in by that time, and so that should be an evolution of what we saw today with final numbers. And then in August, we have a called meeting on the 5th to order the public hearings. We have a board meeting on August 13th. We have a public hearing on budget and tax rate on the 19th, a public hearing on the tax rate on the 27th, and then a final meeting in August on the 27th, which would be the actual approval of the budget and tax rate. Delia has, I think, queried the board about your attendance at those meetings, and we will have a quorum at all of those meetings, but I know there's various ones or twos that will miss specific meetings. But we will have a quorum for all those meetings. If your plans change, please let Delia know, or Natalie, or Dr. Escamilla, or me, or all of the above, as soon as possible. And then in September, our board date is on the 10th of the month, and in October, the 8th of the month, our ACCT annual Congress is in San Francisco that month as well. And then for those who want to be rappelling off the side of a perfectly good building, on October 25th and 26th is our annual fundraiser, Over the Edge. Is there anything else for calendar? Seeing nothing else, the board meeting is adjourned at 4:20 p.m. Thank you all very much.